Welcome to Toy Business Unboxed, your gateway to the secrets of the toy industry. Here, Jason Shea, a toy entrepreneur and expert in the field.
Every product we develop is really inspired by some of the real life experience that we have with our son.
60% of all toys last year were sold on Amazon, which is incredible.
Be passionate about it because it's a road, it's a journey.
Like when you have an idea that you think is like gonna somewhat like change the world, make things better, I'd say go for it.
We'll guide you through the enchanting world of toy design, marketing, and manufacturing. Now let the unboxing begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Toy Business Unboxed podcast. Today, our guest is Andrew, a game designer and CEO of Anomia Press, a company that behind the wildly popular games like Anomia, which was over 2 million copies sold worldwide. And his story is really a masterclass in prototyping and persistence. And he had first imagined the company back when he was age of 12, and he built his first prototype in early 30s. And he had been in this industry for the last few decades as well. So he's definitely full of knowledge, full of experience, and I'm really grateful to have you on our show today, Andrew.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on the show. For our audience that wasn't aware of your particular company and your journey yet, can you share with us how do you first got started? What was the story behind you getting into this industry to begin with?
Sure. So I guess, it does go back to when I was a little kid. When I was 11 or 12, I used to play this card game, just with a regular deck of cards with my friends. And I always, it was a really fun game, kind of a folk game called Store. And the idea of that game, sort of stayed with me for many years because I always thought it could be expanded upon. And, I thought about it from, when I was 11 or 12 till I was in my early to mid 30s. And finally, around that time, I made a prototype and started playing it with my friends with this sort of expanded version of this game that I used to play with just a regular deck of cards. And that over the next few years, I play tested it with many people, a couple of hundred people actually over about a 4-year period, refined the idea, made it into what eventually became Anomia. And I was working full time, while I was developing Anomia, or what became Anomia. So it was always a bit of a side project for me, but I wanted to just see, once I finished developing it, I wanted to sort of see what would happen if I put it out into the world. So I self-published it initially and was manufacturing it and distributing it myself for a few years. And so that's how I got started. And actually before that, I should say, a couple of years before I actually self-published it, I started going to things like Toy Fair to start to understand who the various companies were, who the players were in the industry. Yeah. And so I started to learn. That's when I really started to learn about the toy industry.
I see. Did you did a Kickstarter way back then?
No, I didn't. Actually, Anomia was first published in, I think it was November of 2009. And Kickstarter, I think, came online in the spring of 2009. And I actually hadn't heard about it.
Okay.
The funny thing about your question, though, is that I very much did my own kind of Kickstarter. I basically set up an email list and a website, and I spammed everybody I knew, this thing of, hey, I'm doing this project. Won't you pre-purchase this game and help me subsidize the first printing? So I basically did my own Kickstarter before even really knowing, that. And I always sort of kicked myself that I didn't think of that as a business, but I managed to raise about $20,000 in about 6 weeks to subsidize the first printing.
Was it just like a friends and family round kind of?
Yeah, and like I said, I play tested Anomia with about 200 people over a 4-year period. So I had quite a large body of people to sort of pitch this to. I also, at the time, was a pretty active musician, and I had a big mailing list. So I kind of hit that mailing list too. And so I was able to, raise a bunch of money. I raised money from family, but mostly it was from people pre-purchasing the game before, it actually.
Oh, you're actually pre-selling or
Yeah, so it was exactly like how Kickstarter works, but I just did it myself. Like I had a lot of experience, building websites and managing email lists and stuff like that. So I already knew pretty much how to do all that.
Got it. So that's definitely very, very early. And like, obviously you're having a few decades of experience in the industry. What are some of the trends that you noticed that changed over the years since you first started?
In the industry? Well, it's funny. One thing I've noticed every year, I feel like there's always a newspaper article every year that says like, board games are back, and since I've started working in the industry, there's always, every year, now that I've said this, you'll see it too. I just think it's funny because I feel like they never really went away. I mean, I think the industry is really different from when I started, there's so many more games now. It was already a competitive industry, and now, because the means of production is via either things like Kickstarter or things like the Game Crafter, which is a site you can use to, make your own games, or just the ability for people to, kind of quickly prototype ideas.
The founder of Game Crafter was on our show last year too. So yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I use the Game Crafter all the time just for, trying out ideas and stuff. But it's just, there's so many options now for making stuff.
Yeah.
And people on social media are sharing their tips about, how they make stuff. So I feel like when I walk around a place like Toy Fair, or even, other more consumer-based conventions like PAX Unplugged, or, there's many people who've come up with a game and they're launching it and trying to find their place in the market. And even at Toy Fair this year, I went by a few booths I noticed where they just had one product, one game, and they were deciding to exhibit at Toy Fair, which is, not inexpensive. So I guess one of the biggest trends is just that more people than ever are making games and exploring this as a business opportunity.
And one thing I noticed from my side, because I have interviewed over 185 businesses in the industry since I first started the show. So I see just people from all different aspects, from people that's brand new to people that have been doing this for 41 years. Very, very different. But one thing I noticed is, especially for the board game industry, is getting more and more into the mainstream market compared to before. When I first started 10 years ago, I think there's a lot more mainstream coverage, like media-wise, and also, I've actually watched a few documentary recently just about like board games, and that's one documentary I watched recently that's focusing on like just the board game industry itself. So I think it's getting a little bit more mainstream media attention compared to before. So
I've seen some articles, about super popular games, appearing in like the New York Times, or, I think you're right. And like I said, also, there's always that article every year, usually, sometime around the holidays, where it's like, board games are back. People are looking for connection around a table, or, connections with their family, or being off screen, like all of those things are, it's often a common, marketing tactic where games will.
Yeah. And one thing I also noticed, I don't know if you noticed the same, like marketing also has been changed rapidly when I first started, especially within the tabletop industry, as far as how do we get more people to even know about the game? Because like you mentioned, exactly, there's so much more competition compared to before. So getting people's attention is really the key for you to have any kind of success in the industry. Yeah, but based on your experience, what has been working for you to get people's attention to know more about your game?
I mean, for me, it's funny because I have, on one hand, after a few years of self-publishing and distributing myself, I wound up licensing Anomia to another company, and so they were manufacturing and distributing it. But one thing I've noticed with Anomia ever since it's come out is that it's really always spread via word of mouth. We've had a lot of luck that way, where it's just had this organic ability to spread itself. Just because it's a simple game, it's really fun, it's very loud, people really get into it, and so I'm lucky that way. And then the way that I typically have worked to spread it further is to just make sure that I'm appearing at, various consumer shows where I can demo the game. Because again, if I can get you to play the game, then it's pretty likely that you will purchase it. And then if you purchase it and play it with your friends, then some portion of those people are going to then buy it for themselves. And then it just goes on and on. So, I mean, one thing is like, great to have a game that's fun and sort of spreads itself. That's not obviously, always, and that's kind of maybe peculiar to party games versus something more, complicated like Gloomhaven, or, a more complicated game that's not a party game. So I find that, what works really well for Anomia is just making sure that that people play it, and then it tends to do the work for me, which is an amazing thing. I think we're shifting over to a new licensing partner who has, my previous licensing partner didn't do much in the way of actual advertising or marketing. They were more of a distributor, but my new partner does a ton of marketing. So I'm really, really excited to see what they're going to do with it. And a lot of that is going to be, social media and other sort of, there'll obviously be a lot of social media and some support in some of the, advertising support for some of
I
the
see.
mass market stores.
I see. Will you mind sharing the name of your new partner?
Yeah, it's USAopoly or the
Oh,
Op Games.
I see. I see.
They have a lot of
Mhm.
popular games, and I mean, their marketing is amazing. Like, I'm always so impressed by what they're doing. So I'm really pleased to be working with them.
Okay. Well, I think that would be a better partnership going forward, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, because that, I mean, you really need to have a solid digital marketing to even stay relevant in today's kind of competitive landscape.
Yes, it's
Nowadays.
really true. And I mean, again, it's kind of, we've sold, a couple of million copies of Anomia over the years with very little marketing. So, you can have success without that. But I'm very curious now to see what
Yeah, but
happens with.
also when you first started, the competition level is nowhere to where we are at right now. So,
Right. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, for people that's starting today, is they really need to come up with a very solid marketing budget and strategy to even get
Agreed.
it
Yeah.
out there. So yeah, but if you look ahead in the next year or a few years, what is your vision? Are you creating more and designing and launching more product as well under the business, or what is the vision here?
So, yeah, I mean, so I'm in this transition period with this new partner. So we're actually, doing some redesign work and, redesigning the packaging and updating the line of games, which has been out for a long time and, it needs a refresh. So that's kind of what's happening right now. Some of that stuff will be out, in the late summer or the fall, and more to come over the next year or two. And then personally, I'm also, now that I can kind of hand off this marketing to a really, competent partner, I've got a few other games that I've been working on over the years that I just haven't been able to really focus on. So one of them I've really doubled down on now, and I'm working on. And I'm not sure if this is going to be an Anomia Press product or if it's going to be a new line of games or a new business entirely. So right now I'm working on what is basically the third prototype, or maybe it's sort of the third and a half to fourth prototype. I'm not sure how to call it. But so I'm working pretty hard on that right now and trying to get a new version done so I can be playtesting in the later spring and over the summer. And then based on how that goes, I might start looking into finding a designer for, what it's going to look like and the packaging, et cetera. And then I might also, self-publish this and see if I can basically start a new business, I think.
Well, how you can just license it to Ops Game too, right?
And, there's no guarantee of that. They look at, 2,000 games a year and,
Okay.
there's no guarantee. I mean, I'll have the whole Anomia line with them and we're, redesigning that. So that's great.
Yeah.
And, it's not to say that I wouldn't pitch it to them. I'm not sure that this game fits their product line so much. It's not like Anomia. It's more of a dungeon crawler it's a little bit more of an involved game. So that's what I'm working on right now. And I have a few other products some of which are games, some of which are not related to games. So I'm basically trying to start some additional businesses. And actually, interestingly, part of that is because I had this, this former partner. And, when we shifted over, there was a period of time where we didn't have like a licensing partner, and it was just a hit to our revenue stream. And we have many international licensing partners, but the North American market was a significant revenue stream for Anomia Press. And then when we lost that first partner of ours, it was a big hit to our revenue. So it makes me feel like I want to have like a few other businesses, so I don't have all my eggs in the Anomia basket anymore. So, so that's one thing motivating me. Also, just I love this game idea that I've been exploring, and I really want to get it out into the world.
Maybe you can try the Kickstarter launch this time for this new.
I have thought about it for sure. I might do something like that. I mean, it's also interesting. Kickstarter, as an environment is, I don't know.
It has also evolved quite a bit.
It evolved.
It's more like a marketing play more than just raising money. It's like almost like client acquisition almost.
Yeah, and a lot of people, a lot of companies actually now release products as Kickstarter projects to see, should we actually make this game? Or
make it,
let's make the game without, actually having to invest in the game.
Exactly.
Our own money. We'll see if the market, takes it up. And then if it does, then we'll launch it. So it's kind of an interesting, barometer of, and I'm not sure how like future success factors into, like, let's say you have a successful Kickstarter. Does that mean like you're going to have a successful, long-term successful product? Or is it just like, cause I've supported many games that, on Kickstarter that I was like, oh, that's so cute. That's such a cool game. I'm going to support that project. And it's great. then I get the game and I'm like, okay, it's great, but like, does it have any kind of long-term staying power? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not always.
Agree. I also noticed that because one of our we partner with Launchboom. They have done over 250 Kickstarter campaign so
wow.
far. That's what they specialize in. They specialize in doing Kickstarter. We specialize in like Amazon and Shopify. But based on a lot of conversation I have with your team, you are exactly right. Not all the product that is successful on Kickstarter can be successful after or post Kickstarter, because
Right.
Kickstarter is like, I think the attention is for a very different type of people that's looking for a certain type of games that it doesn't always translate to a more mass market later on in the customer or kind of the product journey. So
yeah, I think the Kickstarter, I mean, you can find like cute little games like Kickstarter. You can find really deep, long playing game, hours and hours long games. You can find all sorts of things there. And I think sometimes it's just like, oh, that's a cute project or that's a really cool looking game,
Mhm.
But does it, but and also, I mean, that's just true in the industry too. So many established companies publish games and they're around for like a year or two and then they're gone, So it's just this constant churn. I mean, the longer I've been in the industry, the more I've realized that Anomia is an outlier. It's weird that I have this product that has just been around for as long as it has been. And it seems like, knock on wood, that it's a bit of an evergreen game. Like it's simple and it's really, enjoyable and easy to learn. And like, there's a lot of replay value. So it just, I was really lucky with it. So
Of course. And I think a typical game business I talk to is you're in this cycle of always need to launch a new product every single year to stay relevant and make the company continue to grow. So in that case, like to have an evergreen product like the one you have is definitely more of an outlier.
Well, it's true. And also, every convention I do, because I get to know people, year over year, if I do PAX East or PAX Unplugged or, Gen Con or whatever. And every year without fail, people are asking me, what's new? What do you have that's new? Many years, I don't have anything new. I just have Anomia, I mean, I've got, 5 different versions of Anomia, and I've put out different versions over the years. So, and most of my efforts, at those cons are to show, people who are new to the game, how to play, etc. But I'm always, happy to see familiar faces. And now that I've been doing it for so long, I see a lot of familiar faces. But it's still, it's still funny to me that people always ask, what do you have that's new? People always want, they want the newest thing.
Yeah, I think that's also very typical for our industry.
It's very true of like capitalist culture, so it's just like, we're like a bunch of crows, we like the shiny new thing, so we're all susceptible to that. So
yeah, for sure. So, but do you have any timeline that you're working on for a few new product that you have in mind?
I mean, like I said, this new game, it's a much more complicated game. So like I said, I'm trying to get this 4th prototype done by the, later in the spring, or even actually, in the next couple of months, have something I can play, because I have to work out a bunch of like mechanics and I need to do that via play testing. I can only do so much of it in my head or, in an Excel doc or, in a rule doc. Like I need to actually get it in front of people. I mean, this was always the lesson for me is like, especially with Anomia, it was like Anomia lived in my head for so long. But it was finally like once I got it out into the world and people started responding to it, that's when it really came to life. And this new game, I've actually had working prototypes I've played multiple times with people. And then I realized I've come to a wall with it and I needed to sort of completely redesign it to move forward. And so then I basically I felt like I was staring at a wall for like a year, just trying to figure out, what's the change. And then I had a big breakthrough last year and I was like, I think I finally see how it should go. So now I'm just working to get that out there. So I can't really say like the real timeline until I get this new version out and start playing it with people, because I don't know if it's any good. I have no idea if it's going to be fun or not. I think it's really fun and hilarious actually, but I don't know anything, basically.
Definitely need to do more play testing to kind of validate.
I don't know. I really don't know, and this is like, even with Anomia, I think the thing that I was most afraid of with Anomia when I was publishing it was, what if people are indifferent to it? What if people are like, okay, it's kind of fun, I guess. But, whereas I saw it as like really fun. So I think I'm hoping that this game also is really fun in a different kind of way, but people might just be like, so we'll see.
I see. Yeah. There's always, you need to go through a certain process to really make sure that the concept is validated before you spend tons of money in manufacturing.
Yeah, exactly. And also, not only that, but to just get the feedback I need to make it, better. So if there is a good idea there, if it is a fun game, then, I'm sure it could be better than, whatever the fourth prototype is going to be. So
Of course, of course, of course. So yeah, but thank you so much for sharing your journey and all the different experiences that you have in the industry. So we're
thanks for
kind of
having me.
wrapping up today's interview. If you have to share just one piece of advice with someone that's brand new and is about to get started inside the toys and game industry, what would that be?
I mean, if you're just starting out as a game designer, I would say, my advice would be make a prototype as soon as you can of your idea and get it in front of other people. And by make a prototype, I mean as simple as possible. Like literally it could be index cards, that you write on with a Sharpie and rubber
Yeah.
bands and popsicle sticks, whatever it is that you can make, and make your idea as simply as possible so that you're not wasting a lot of time on sort of features that you feel like would be awesome, because like those kinds of things actually are better when they emerge, from the play testing than if you sort of load your game with like 20 features. And, it's kind of like in the business world, you hear there's this approach to product development called minimum viable product, where you make the simplest version of your product, like as simple as possible. It's got like one or maybe two features, and then you roll it out, and then you start letting your customers ask you for ways to improve it, and that's how you grow it.
Yeah, it's about speed of implementation sometimes.
Right. So I would just suggest, if you have this idea that's been living, rent free in your brain, and you feel like, oh my God, I really want to make this as a business. I mean, this goes for any product idea, not just games. Then, make it as simply as you can, whether it's 3D printing or popsicle sticks or index cards, or, you can buy blank cards on Amazon and literally just write the Sharpie on them and make a deck of cards, by hand. You can draw a board on a piece of paper, like it's so easy to make stuff and just get it, in front of people and play it with as many people as you can. And then, once you've kind of gotten down that road a little bit, and you feel like I've got a good idea, that's when you want to start exploring, then you have a choice. Like, do you want to license it to another company and have them deal with all the, challenges of manufacturing and distributing a product? Or do you want to try to do it? And that question always rolls up to, how do you want to spend your time? And what set of problems do you want to have? Having done both of those things, they're sort of like, you've got, as an inventor and a manufacturer, you've got, problem set A, and then as a licensing, when you have a licensing agreement, then you've got problem set B, so you're going to have problems and challenges either way. It's just, how do you want to spend your time? And what else do you have to do?
In my experience, is also what part of the business do you enjoy the most?
Right.
Because do you enjoy designing more and more games? If so, maybe licensing as well. Because if you go the self-publishing route, you are no longer just a pure designer. You are a true business owner. There's a lot of other aspects you need to do.
It took me a long time to realize that. I mean, because I have a business background. I've worked, as doing product development. I've worked, in publishing. I've worked in wholesale distribution. Like, I've done a lot of different things. So I'm going to have a lot of business experience. But what I've realized finally, I'm a young 56. I don't like marketing. I really don't. I like making stuff. I really like making the product. And even like when I worked in a more corporate environment, I often would do product development work. I'd build a product, but then I'd get saddled with like a bunch of the marketing. And I was like, I don't want to market these, products. I just want to make them. But, you can't always sort of have that split. Like, sometimes you have to be involved in both. And now that I'm older, I think I've really made peace with this thing of like, I just like, if I can just be the creative, maker and hand it off. Now that I have, I know lots of people in the industry. I know a bunch of companies I could license to potentially, like for this new game. Maybe the one reason that I would publish it myself, like for this new game, for instance, is that if I can publish it myself and show that there's interest in the market, then when I do go to license it, I can command a higher royalty rate, or I have more leverage when I go to the negotiating table for that licensing contract. So that is one, real consideration that I would give to self-publishing a new product. And that's how it went with Anomia. Like, I had sold, many thousands of copies of Anomia by the time I finally licensed it for the first time. And licensing it for the second time, I had sold, 2 million copies of Anomia. So that gave me some other bargaining power. So
For sure. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So for our audience, I would love to follow your journey and kind of follow your company as well. Where is the best place for people to find you online?
Probably the Anomia Press website, anomiapress.com.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll make sure we put that in the show note. And thank you so much for your time today, sharing your journey and sharing some of your experience and wisdom with our audience today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for our audience for tuning in to this episode of Toy Business Unboxed podcast. I hope today's conversation gives you some practical insight and fresh inspiration for growing your own toys or game brands. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Toy Launch, a leading marketing and growth partner for toys and game industry. At Toy Launch, we help brands scale on Amazon and beyond through full service account management, advertising, SEO, creative, catalog optimization, influencer marketing, and more. If you are looking for a proven team that understand both digital marketing and toys and game industry inside out, we are here to help. If you like the personal breakdown of your brand, your opportunity, and your best next move, you can schedule a free consultation session with us. Just visit toy-launch.com/schedule. If you want to connect with other toys and game founders, feel free to join our brand new community, Toys and Game Launchpad. It is a free Facebook group that we recently launched that you can also connect with other founders and other game and toys designers. For more resource, update, and industry insight, visit us at any time at toy-launch.com. Until next time, keep innovating, keep creating, keep bringing joy to toys. This is Jason Shea signing off on the Toy Business Unboxed podcast. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.